Revealed, 10 spine-chilling tales of sinister fates that will haunt you forever. Rachel staggered out of the hospital, fatigue weighing down her limbs like lead. Every night shift carved deeper lines of worry across her brow. She thought of Mia, her spirited 7-year-old, at home, innocent and free. But a chill crept into her skin as she walked the dimly lit street back to their cozy, suburban house. The familiar facades of her neighbors' homes shifted, becoming eerie silhouettes that whispered hidden truths. What had once been comforting now felt sinister. As Rachel fumbled with her keys, a draft flicked the strands of her hair, and she felt eyes watching her from the shadows. She shuddered and turned quickly, but the street was empty. The friendly faces of her neighbors danced in her mind, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of dread building in her heart. Just as she pushed open the door and stepped inside, a fog of unease settled around her. Mia's laughter was the bright spark that lit up their home, but tonight, an unsettling quietness loomed around them. Rachel's heart raced. She scanned the living room, the place they made memories, yet tonight it felt like it was swallowed whole by an ominous presence. On the floor, she noticed a folded piece of paper. Her breath caught as she picked it up, fingers trembling. "Keep Mia away from the neighbors," it read, printed in jagged letters. Fear gripped her throat. Her pulse quickened, pounding like a drum in her ears. She knew they were kind, the neighborly smiles that greeted her every morning felt genuine, didn't they? Rachel shook her head. It had to be a prank, a byproduct of stress. A tired mind imagining threats that weren't there, yet, strange things began to seep into their daily life. Flickering lights danced across the walls while shadows stretched longer than they should. Rachel brushed it off. Exhaustion made her paranoid, made her see things that weren't real. But Mia went eerily quiet, withdrawn from her usual energetic chatter. Rachel's unease festered, worming its way into her daily routine, dampening their once vibrant home. Then, the mornings changed. Friendly chit-chat became forced exchanges with the neighbor next door, whose warm smile was replaced by a chilling glint in her eye. It triggered an instinctive response. Every interaction became like walking on eggshells, and the laughter that usually lit up the streets felt muffled, filtered through a veil of growing suspicion. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One ominous evening, danger came closer. Rachel spotted a figure across the street, illuminated sickly beneath the murky glow of a streetlight, that she recognized. The familiarity of that gaze was twisted, cold and unyielding. Anxiety gripped her chest like a vice, tightening with each heartbeat. The sidewalks, once solid ground beneath her, morphed into a suffocating trap. Desperate, Rachel began to peel back the layers of her idyllic neighborhood, uncovering unsettling stories and whispers of disappearances that had been buried like compost. Frustrated, she approached the police, but they dismissed her fears, attributing them to the pressure of her long nights. The fabric of her once safe world ripped apart. As she pounded her fist against the door, panic surged when it slammed shut behind her, locking Mia inside. The laughter of her neighbors echoed through the walls, twisting into something grotesque. Rachel's heart raced. Had she ever truly kept Mia safe? The very shadow of that thought paralyzed her as darkness loomed, swallowing every exhaled breath, and she realized too late that safety was nothing but a cruel illusion. Rachel's vision blurred, her trembling hands clenching the doorknob as a desperate scream bubbled up from her throat, but no sound came out. The laughter, no, it was laughter torn apart, echoed ominously, mocking her terror from behind the wooden door. "Mia!" she cried, heart thundering in her chest. The shadows twisted along the walls, inching closer, pulsating with a life of their own. A chill wrapped around her, and the air thickened as if it was alive, breathing in sync with the dread swelling in her chest. The neighbor's laughter faded into a haunting melody, whispering secrets of lost children. Rachel pressed her ear against the door, straining to catch any sound from inside. All was quiet now, too quiet in that suffocating space. A sickening thought settled in her gut. What if they had taken her? What if her fears weren't paranoia but truth? She stumbled backward, panic clawing at her throat, and banged on the door again. "Mia! Open the door!" A muffled thump from within made her freeze, dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. Was that her daughter? That soft sound of plastic bouncing off the floor? Was it a toy? A sense of impending doom coiled tighter around her, and she turned her gaze toward the window. Outside, the streetlight flickered with sporadic bursts, casting ghostly shadows that danced like dark marionettes. Rachel shot a glance at the familiar figures lurking under the dim light, their faces contorted into expressions she had never seen before, predatory and unfathomably sinister. Suddenly, the shrillness of her phone broke the tense stillness. Rachel jumped, heart racing again. It was an unknown number, but something tugged at her, an instinct that this call could either save or destroy. "Hello?" Rachel croaked, her voice thin and wavering. "Rachel. Keep Mia inside. You can't trust them." The voice was shaky, panicked. It sent shivers cascading down her spine. "They're watching. They'll come for her." "Who is this?" she asked, a murmur of urgency in her tone. But her question was answered by silence. The line went dead. Rachel's heart hammered harder, feelings of isolation swarming around her. She was all alone in a neighborhood that had turned against her. As she steadied her breath, plotting a way to reach Mia, she noticed movement from the window. There, illuminated in the glaring light, stood the figure of her neighbor, standing unmoving. Eyes dark, devoid of any warmth. Just staring. "What do you want?" Rachel whispered, trembling as the silent figure grinned impossibly wide. Rachel's instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet felt cemented to the floor. She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, focusing on Mia. She had to protect her daughter. Then she heard it, a soft, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat, coming from inside the door. "Mia!" She flung herself against the door, slamming her shoulder into it. "Mia!" With a sudden crash, the door flew open, and Rachel stumbled into the darkened living room. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness. Her eyes started to adjust, panic welling in her throat as she scanned for Mia. "Mia! Where are you?" She ventured deeper into the shadows, the walls eerily echoing her voice back at her. Just then, from the corner of the room, a giggle echoed, a sound sweeter than honey but laced with something darker. Rachel turned slowly, dread injecting every nerve in her body. "Mama, look!" In the dim light, she saw Mia. Standing there, grinning, hands clutching a small, carved figure, a wooden puppet that looked disturbingly lifelike. "Mia, where did you get that?" Rachel's heart thudded painfully. The grin on her daughter's face widened, stretching unnaturally. "The neighbors gave it to me." A fog of horror wrapped around Rachel as the realization pierced her heart. They had given her something. But at what cost? Before she could lunge forward, the front door slammed shut again, echoing with finality as shadows seeped in, closing off any escape. The lights flickered once more, plunging them into darkness, and Rachel felt an icy hand gripping her heart. "Now, let us play," whispered the sinister voice of her smiling daughter. What had Mia truly become? The laughter from outside grew louder, and Rachel's world spiraled, questioning her grip on reality. Could she find her daughter again before it was too late? Or had she already lost her forever? Rachel's breath caught in her throat as the darkness swallowed them whole. Where once was the comforting familiarity of their home, now loomed an abyss filled with unseen dangers. The pulse of the shadows, thrumming and alive, grew louder, as if the walls were breathing. "Mia," she whispered, voice trembling, searching for any sign of her little girl, any trace of the daughter she knew. The playful giggle that echoed through the room twisted her insides, warping innocence into something sinister. Please let us go. Mia stood frozen, eyes gleaming with a dark light, the puppet dangling from her tiny fingers like a lifeline. You'll love playing with us, she said, her voice threading through the air like a fog, sweet yet suffocating. Put it down, sweetheart. It's not safe. Rachel fought against the rising tide of panic swelling in her chest. The room felt alive, shadows pooling under furniture, glaring like hungry eyes, ready to pounce. Mama, it wants to play. I promised. Mia's smile split her face, far too wide, revealing teeth that seemed sharper, glinting in the dim light like shards of glass. Each word felt wrong, twisted in ways that made Rachel's skin crawl. The sound of laughter outside surged again, the neighbors' voices morphing into a cacophony of otherworldly joy. The rhythmic thumping echoed now in sync with Rachel's heartbeat, drowning out any thoughts of escape. What did they do to you? She whispered, stepping closer but wary of the dark puppet between them, now looming larger than life. It showed me things. Mia's eyes flicked with fleeting shadows, the corners of her grin sharp and quivering. The puppet twisted in her grip, somehow animate, its eyes black voids that swallowed light. Rachel didn't want to look closer, didn't want to know what horrors had been corrupted inside that wooden figure. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, a bright flash illuminating the room for a brief moment, just long enough for Rachel to catch the mango-colored walls, peeling and warped, darkened by shadows that moved as if alive. In that fleeting moment, she saw glimpses of the faces outside smiling, heads bobbing, eyes dark, blank. Don't you want to be part of our game, Mama? Mia asked, her voice dripping with an unsettling glee. Before Rachel could answer, the puppet lifted its wooden limbs, strings of darkness threading through the air, twisting towards Rachel like tendrils reaching for flesh. She lunged forward, grabbing her daughter's arms, shaking her gently. Mia! Snap out of it. This isn't you. Mia's laughter rang eerily, yet a flicker of confusion flashed across her face. But I want to play, she murmured, the innocence of her childhood battling against a voice twisted into something darker. No. We need to go. Rachel shouted, tugging fiercely at Mia's hand, but the puppet suddenly seemed to resist, a force emanating from it, anchoring her daughter in place. The room warped, colors blending into an eerie haze. Rachel felt herself being pulled, the shadows shifting as the walls seemed to tighten around them. Was the house alive? Was it fighting her, trying to keep her there? Mama, help! There was a moment, a brief crack in Mia's voice before the darkness enveloped her entirely. Mia! Rachel screamed, panic surging through her like a wild river. She grabbed the puppet, yanking it away from Mia. The moment the puppet slipped from her fingers, the laughter outside dropped, replaced by an eerie silence that weighed heavily in the air. Stop! Rachel cried, the shadows around her stirring with rage. In that fraught instant, everything froze. The laughter faded into haunting whispers, and Rachel stepped back, realizing, with dawning horror, that the absence of sound was not peace but an omen. Now you'll play with us too, Mia's voice echoed, layering over itself, a symphony of the lost. As Rachel turned to flee, the front door burst open, and dense darkness poured inside, chilling her to the bone. From the shadows, figures emerged, identical to the laughing neighbors, eyes glimmering, twisted smiles growing ever wider. Join us, they chorused. Their hands stretching toward her, insistently beckoning. The room pulsed, the walls quaking as the figures advanced, and Rachel felt her grip on reality slip away. There was only darkness, every crevice, every shadow, beckoning her toward oblivion. Was there a way out? Or had the neighbors already sealed her fate? In that moment, Rachel realized the question was no longer about saving Mia. No, now it was about whether she could save herself from the silent scream of despair that loomed closer, and as the shadows consumed her being, the last thing she heard was a mournful, echoing giggle. What sinister game had they truly been playing? What would they demand next? Rachel's feet moved instinctively, propelled by fear as she ducked under a closeness of shadows, the air thick and suffocating. She could feel the icy fingers of the darkness wrapping around her legs, holding her tight, pulling her closer to the laughter that now echoed in her ears, foreboding, mocking. Rachel, the chilling familiarity of her daughter's voice clawed at her heart. "Why don't you want to play? Get away!" Rachel screamed. She stumbled backward, her back hitting the wall, the warmth of her body lost in the icy dread surrounding her. The figures with the twisted smiles loomed closer, faces morphing into grotesque caricatures of her neighbors. How could they be here? How could they be this? The laughter crescendoed, a jarring symphony of delight and malice, drowning out her thoughts. As if responding to her terror, the shadows pulsed and undulated, each shiver leaving a residue of despair, thickening the air. Rachel pressed her palms against her ears, but it was futile. The laughter seeped through her skin, resonating in her bones. "Mama, you're scared," Mia's voice echoed, piercing through the uproar like a knife. "But you'll feel better once you learn to play." "No." Rachel's voice was hoarse, strained through gritted teeth. The decision between fleeing and confronting her daughter battled within her. If Mia was still in there, trapped beneath whatever darkness had overtaken her, Rachel had to reach her. But how could she save Mia if these things stood in her way? Before she could ponder further, one of the figures lurched forward, its head tilting at an unnatural angle, eyes boring into her with a twisted understanding. "Let us teach you, Rachel," it said, its voice an unsettling blend of her neighbor's cheeriness and something darker, guttural. Then they all shifted, an orchestra of grotesque smiles and glistening, monstrous eyes passing through the doorway in unison. They whispered her name in fluttering bursts. "Rachel, Rachel, stop, please!" she cried, fighting against the pressure building inside her chest. She forced her feet into motion, breaking free from the cold grip of the wall. She had to reach the door, to escape this nightmare. The moment she turned, however, a wave of shadows surged toward her, seizing her ankles, wrapping tighter, digging in like icy talons. Rachel's breath quickened as she struggled against them. "Mia, I need you!" she screamed, the sound of her own voice lost in the chaos around her. Suddenly, a flicker of warmth ignited in her chest, igniting her fear to fury. "I want to let you take her!" Rachel yelled, vision narrowing on Mia, still standing there blankly, the puppet twirling in her grasp. "Mia, listen to me. Fight it." In that instant, Mia's expression flickered, confusion crossing her face as the shadows recoiled slightly. "Mama?" she questioned, the sweetness of her childlike voice almost breaking through. "But I promised." "Promised what?" Rachel shouted, pulling against the shadows that clawed at her, drawing strength from her love for her child. "What did it make you promise?" Mia's gaze shifted from the puppet to Rachel, her eyes dimming with the weight of realization, recognition. For a heartbeat, Rachel believed she was winning. Then the shadows surged violently, whipping the room into a frenzy, spinning everything into a cyclone of despair. The neighbors halted their advance, their collective laughter morphing into howls of anger, fury at being challenged. "It'll show you," they screeched in unison, "what you never wanted to see." Rachel's heart raced as the walls started shifting, curves and angles twisting unnaturally, and for a moment, the room was no longer just her home but a living nightmare. The figures lunged forward, and she could feel the chance slipping away. "Mia, listen!" Rachel pleaded again, but the shadows wrapped tighter, drawing her nearer to the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. A breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just about her anymore. She could feel that existential stake looming, an unsettling unraveling of her very being. What horrors awaited her? Did they expect her to join them willingly? Just then, as if her thoughts summoned it, the puppet in Mia's grasp leaped with sudden life, emitting a rumbling sound that echoed through the abyss, sending a shudder through Rachel's body. "What are you?" she whispered, terror creeping back in. The puppet turned its head slowly, eyeing Rachel with an unsettling, sharp gleam. And now the game changes. Mia's laughter intermingled with the puppet's ghastly hiss, blending into a horrifying symphony that filled the room. What had the neighbors conjured? What had they unleashed? Would Rachel manage to save herself and Mia, or was everyone about to lose? As the shadows surged once more, Rachel's world teetered on the brink of darkness, and she knew there were things worse than death lurking just beyond. What awaited her in the depths of the game? The puppet's voice reverberated through the frigid air, a sound that twisted reality itself. Playtime, Rachel, it's just beginning. Every word echoed in her mind like a death knell. The shadows tightened their grip, pulling her towards the pulsating core of dark energy radiating from Mia and the puppet. Rachel felt a desperate need to reach her daughter, to unravel the truth hidden behind those glistening eyes and twisted expressions. Mia! She cried, her voice shaking. Fight it. Remember how we used to play. Remember the laughter. Yet the laughter around her morphed, a clamor of voices that mocked her memories. Laughter is just the beginning, they jeered. The shadows underfoot swirled like a storm, dragging Rachel further into the room's distortion. The walls throbbed as if alive, colors sliding and melding into shades of horror and despair. She had to break through, she had to find a way. Suddenly, Mia's haunted face twisted, as the puppet grinned wider. You don't have to worry about your forgotten laughter, Mama. It's time to play the game of secrets. The word slipped through the air, heavy and sinister, swirling around Rachel like a noose. The room slowed for a heartbeat, and Rachel's eyes locked onto those of her daughter. There was a flicker of recognition, a soft shimmer amidst the darkness. Mia, listen to me. Focus on our memories. On the park, the flowers, our smiles. Mia hesitated, her brows knitting together. The puppet pulled at her more aggressively, however. No. Those things are gone. Only I can show her the truth. Rachel felt her heart lurch, hope mingling with dread. Mia, I believe in you. Please fight. For a moment, the shadows faltered, ripples of confusion shimmering through the collective. Mia trembled, then the laughter echoed again, now sharper, more cruel. You think you can change her? A voice from the darkness sneered. You don't even know what you're up against. The realization struck Rachel this was a game of manipulation, a cruel trick designed to draw her into despair. The puppet jolted in Mia's grip, rattling ominously. Don't let her fool you. She only wants to keep you from your promise. Rachel's soul turned cold. What promise? What had the darkness made Mia swear? What did you promise her? She barked, the shadows encroaching as rage ignited inside her. The laughter crescendoed anew, its sound swelling until it felt like knives slicing through the air. She promised to play forever. They howled in chorus. No. That's not true. Rachel shot back, finding strength in her rising fury. You'll never take her from me. In a sudden burst of will, Rachel surged forward, breaking through the barrier of shadows. The laughter shrieked in protest as she lunged at Mia, reaching for the puppet. But the moment was fleeting, splintered by the horrific nature of the game. 1,000 faces loomed closer in the dimness, eager to witness an impending tragedy. The walls shifted again, dark fingers twisting the air, shapes morphing into grotesque reflections of her own fears, the fear of not saving her child, the fear of losing herself. A blinding flash erupted from the puppet. In that instant, time splintered, revealing infinite paths, each one darker than the last. Rachel gasped as visions swirled through her mind, moments where she failed, choices that had spiraled out of control, shadows lurking in corners of her life she had ignored. Mia, we can break this. She urged, her voice trembling. We can find the way out. But as the light dimmed, the shadows swarmed, smothering hope. The figures closed in, their faces a twisted gallery of rage and pleasure at her despair. Mama, I can't, Mia whispered. The spark of recognition flickered, but the shadows clawed deeper, cutting the connection. Then, a beat, a pause in the tide. Rachel felt the whisper in her heart, the relentless pull of love fighting against the encroaching darkness. The question hung heavy in the air, casting an undeniable spell. Would she discover the truth that set them free, or was the darkness destined to consume them both? Can you save her? The shadows challenged, a sinister smirk hanging in the air, time unfurled like a dark, jagged knife. Rachel had to decide. Dive deeper into the heart of the shadows, confront the truest nightmares, or succumb to the puppetry of despair? The game awaited, and soon, the hardest truths would emerge. What would she sacrifice to save her daughter? Rachel's heart raced as the darkness pressed in, its suffocating weight threatening to crush her resolve. The foul laughter pierced through her mind, a cacophony of agony and mockery. The very air hummed with malicious energy, vibrating with the echoes of unfulfilled promises and compromised souls. "Mia!" She cried again, desperation clawing at her throat. Each syllable met resistance as a wave of shadows rippled in response. "Listen to me. It's your choice. You can decide." But the puppet's grin widened grotesquely. "Choices? Sweet Rachel, you really think it's that simple?" It twirled in Mia's grasp, as if mocking her feeble hopes. "You know nothing of the gifts I've bestowed upon her." "Gifts?" Rachel's mind screamed. What kind of twisted gifts could possibly come from a creature like that? She wanted to lunge again, to wrench Mia away, but every step felt like wading through molasses. The shadows danced faster, wrapping tendrils around her limbs, pulling her down. "Mama!" Mia's voice trembled, a fragile thread tethering her to reality. "I don't want to play anymore." Those words ignited a fragile flame of hope within Rachel. "Then fight it, my love. Remember the days we spent at the lake? The sunlight, the little butterflies? You have the power." The puppet recoiled, its happiness turning to rage as it stuttered slightly. The laughter faltered, becoming a low growl. "Don't listen to her. Your memories mean nothing here. Embrace the darkness. I will protect you." "Protect?" Rachel spat. "From what? Your own mother. You're twisting her, tearing her apart." The words seemed to cut through the laughter, but the room darkened again, plump shadows swirling and merging into an insatiable void. Suddenly, snatches of memories flooded her mind, moments of Mia smiling, chasing fireflies, fingers dipped into cool brook water, and the warmth of a bouncing heartbeat against her chest when Rachel cradled her small body. Each scene felt like a lifeline tugging her back to her purpose. "Mia, please. Don't let it win. Remember our storybooks?" The image of the two of them curled up on the couch, laughing at fantastical creatures and heroic deeds sparked a profound connection. "You're my brave knight. You always have been." The shadows shuddered, twisting as if in pain. Mia stilled, her brow furrowing, the flicker of recognition growing. "We were happy, weren't we?" "Yes. We can be happy again," Rachel urged, desperation driving her spine straight, pushing against the constraints. "That's what the puppet fears. It needs the darkness. But we don't." With a sudden rush, Rachel didn't waste another second. She lunged again, arms reaching past the puppet, desperate for her daughter. The faint warmth from Mia flickered, threatening to withdraw, and she felt the draw of the shadows lurking just beyond. "No!" The puppet howled, its voice warped with fury. "You're breaking the rules. As if I care about rules that keep my daughter trapped." Rachel retorted, her fingers brushing against Mia's trembling ones, and there it was. A moment, the thinnest ribbon connecting them. Rachel grasped it tightly. "Mia, hold on to me, to us." Suddenly, the room trembled violently, shadows clawing at their resolve. The puppet shrieked, a horrific wail that echoed through every crevice. "You think you can just take her? You don't understand what she's meant for." A surge of energy whipped through Rachel as she fought against the darkness, determined to yank her child back into the light. With every ounce of her being, she began to unravel the bond between Mia and the puppet, pulling it apart like the pages of a long-locked book filled with dark secrets, but the shadows twisted tighter, their rage spilling over like ink, flooding the space around her. Faces of anguish emerged from within, whispering her deepest fears, her failures. "You will fail. She is ours." "Not while I breathe," Rachel shouted defiantly. A crack of light seeped into the room, pulsing in time with her heartbeat, pushing back against the consuming dark. As reality split around her, the atmosphere crackled and twisted, a battle of wills playing out in desperate silence. Rachel could feel the wall between them beginning to fracture, but the resistance was immense. Could she reverse the promise made in darkness and reclaim her daughter? Could they escape before the shadows consumed them? This was their moment, their second chance. But just as Rachel felt hope erupting, the room shuddered violently again, revealing yet another unknown horror lurking in the shadows, ready to ensnare them both anew. What awaited just out of sight? What twisted fate had the darkness devised for them next? The shadows writhed and pulsed, drawing tighter as if the very fabric of the room conspired against Rachel. She barely caught her breath when a new sound sliced through the din, a soft, eerie humming, like a lullaby sung by the damned. It coiled around her, seeping into her bones and constricting her thoughts. "Mia!" Rachel cried, the words spilling from her lips like a prayer turned desperate plea. The puppet snarled, words dripping with venom. "How precious to think you can save her from my embrace. Let me show you what true power looks like." At that, it gestured, shadows curling around its slender fingers, weaving grotesque shapes, figures from Rachel's past that morphed into monstrous, twisted versions of the people she once knew. Her grandmother, once jovial and warm, loomed before her, hair like a dark cloud, eyes hollow and accusing. "You failed me, Rachel," it whispered, voice rasping like gravel. "You let the darkness in." "No." She shook her head violently, retreating only to find more figures emerging, friends, family, their faces marred with pain, trailing behind the puppet as if following a twisted conductor leading an orchestra of despair. I didn't mean for this." Rachel stammered, tears spilling down her cheeks, fear clawing at her throat. The memories burned, stinging and raw, the darkness feeding on her self-doubt, twisting it into a web of guilt and anguish. "I can fight," she shouted defiantly, but deep inside, uncertainty gnawed at her, undermining her resolve. The puppet laughed, a chilling sound echoing from every corner of the room. "You are weak, just like all of them. You think you can save her, when you can't even save yourself." Desperation surged through Rachel, igniting a spark of anger. "No. I won't give in to you." "Won't you?" The shadows swirled menacingly. "What are you without your memories? What is she without you?" Mia's fragile voice broke through the chaos. "Mama, I'm scared." Rachel's heart crumbled at her daughter's fear. "Mia, you are stronger than you know. Listen to me." But the shadows pulled at Mia tighter. The puppet's control deepened, love for her daughter fading into a panic. "I won't let you go. I will keep you safe." Then Mia's eyes flickered, the light within them dimming like a candle threatened by a storm. Rachel struggled against the shadows, wrestling not just her body but her heart and soul. "Think, my love. Remember the lake, the fireflies. The day we caught that big fish together?" With each word, Rachel painted vivid images in Mia's mind, light bursting through the darkness, laughter conquering despair. The connection sparked again, a flickering thread igniting hope. But just as quickly, the puppet's rage intensified, shadows whipping into a frenzy, trying to drown out Rachel's voice. "You will pay for this, Rachel." It screeched, the walls vibrating with the furious declaration. Each word was a gale-force wind, slamming Rachel against an unseen barrier. "No more games. The final darkness will claim you both." A crack in the darkness opened, revealing a glimpse of the world outside, the sun, the trees, a glimmer of safety just beyond reach. Adrenaline surged through Rachel as she caught Mia's gaze, locking onto that flickering light of recognition. "Mia, come. Hold on to me." The room quaked, shadows snarling, the puppet's energy pulsing like a living thing, malevolent and angry. It leaped forward, its grin impossibly wide, pulling at the very strands of Rachel's sanity. "You think you can escape me? Mama!" Rachel lunged forward, her heart thundering in her ears, desperation morphing into a primal scream. She reached for Mia, hand outstretched, and in that moment, time froze. Could they break through? Was the light of love enough to pierce through this tangible darkness? But as she neared, a thunderous roar erupted, a boiling black tide swelling up to drag them down, tossing hope and memory aside like dead leaves. And in that swirling chaos, a sinister whisper flickered through the air. "Even if you escape, your nightmares will just begin." The shadows laughed, a horrific symphony echoing through the void as Rachel felt the pull, an anchor of despair threatening to trap them forever. What twisted game of fate did the puppet have in store? Would they survive this dark dance or become part of its eternal night? The moment froze, stretching into infinity, a tension caught in the air so thick it choked Rachel. With a primal instinct, she reached for Mia, their fingers inches apart. Was it truly love she felt, or merely desperation entwined with survival? The walls pulsed, shadows swirling around her like dark water as the puppet's manic laughter sang in her ears. "Mama!" Mia's voice was more of a whisper, pulled against the tide of shadows that sought to drown her. "Hold on, baby. Please." Rachel's cry shattered the silence. Her world seemed to break apart, memories cascading like shattered glass, cutting deep with every flicker of her past that surfaced in the darkness. Then, with a swift motion, the puppet unleashed a venomous wave of darkness, rushing forward in a storm of undulating shades, its mouth twisted into a grin that promised nothing but torment. "You cannot hold your darkness at bay." It screeched, shrieks mingling with echoes of Rachel's despair. The shadows roared, engulfing Rachel, wrapping around her limbs like frozen chains. She felt herself being pulled back, the warmth of Mia's small palm slipping through her fingers. Time was collapsing, the moment expanding and contracting, drawing the recoil of terror deep into her marrow. "Mia!" Rachel shrieked, her heart racing like a trapped bird against a window. But the pull was relentless, and the shadows clawed at her, each grasp filled with the sorrow and pain of her past. A cacophony of voices filled the air, her grandmother, her childhood friends all accusing her, their faces shifting grotesquely, merging into a single visage of betrayal. "Mama!" In a burst of furious strength, Rachel fought against the oppressive weight of despair, memories igniting a small flame within her. "You're wrong. I'm not worthless. I am more than these shadows." Each word hung heavy with conviction, igniting a flicker of hope. The puppet faltered, momentarily released from its twisted grip, and Rachel surged forward again, desperate to grasp Mia's hand as the shadows wavered. "You have to come with me," she cried. "We can fight together." The connection flickered, but then darkness swelled again, and with it, the puppet's laughter rang out, mocking and unfurling like a serpent. "Do you not see? You are bound to the darkness as surely as you are bound to her." And in Rachel's heart, a more profound terror coiled. Tremors of doubt flooded her mind as all the puppet's malevolent whispers washed over her. What would happen if she did manage to escape? Would Mia ever truly be safe? Would Rachel's guilt fester in the light instead of the dark? As if reading her thoughts, the puppet screeched, "You will never escape your fate." The shadows thickened, engulfing Rachel yet again, bringing with them burdens heavy enough to drown a world, a daughter left alone, a mother held captive by her regrets. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm her, she recalled a radiant memory, their laughter at the lake, fireflies dancing as Mia chased them. Light flared, the connection sparking between them again. "Mia! Remember the fireflies. Remember our love." With a sound like shattering glass, the dark tide wobbled. The puppet roared in outrage, losing its hold momentarily. "No! You cannot do this!" It shrieked, scrambling to regain its power, dark tendrils writhing as if in pain. Mama. Mia's voice cut through the chaos, filled with strength, and for a fleeting moment, Rachel saw a glimmer of autonomy in her daughter's eyes. A final push surged through Rachel's heart as a blast of raw energy propelled her forward, her body mirroring the courage of her spirit. Just as their fingertips met, the room erupted with blinding light. The shadows hissed, retreating as the darkness twisted into a frenzied retreat, but only for a heartbeat, before they roared back, angrier than ever. No! You think you can banish me? The puppet lashed out, fury radiating from every shadowy corner. This is only the beginning for you. The light flickered again, blinding and hot as Rachel drew Mia into her embrace, but doubt gnawed at her heart. What if they escaped? This, only to find something worse waiting on the other side? As the room pulsed and faded around them, a chilling realization descended upon her: there was no escape from the puppet's reach. Only an unknown fate awaited both of them, and as the light dimmed, casting them into uncertain darkness, one question hung in the air: was this true freedom, or merely a different shade of captivity? The light flickered violently, plunging Rachel and Mia into an abyss where sound twisted, mocking their presence. The haunting laughter of the puppet echoed as oppressive shadows wrapped around them tighter with every passing second. Rachel's instincts screamed. They weren't alone anymore. Disembodied whispers filled the darkness, slithering like smoke. Voices she recognized, her friends, her family, pleading. "Why did you leave us?" they cried, each sound a dagger embedded in her chest. The weight of guilt crashed down, pinning her in place. "Mama, don't listen!" Mia shouted, pulling at Rachel's sleeve, her tiny body trembling. The darkness seemed to respond, constricting, pressing in like a vice. Rachel fought against an overwhelming tide of despair that threatened to suffocate her. She had to focus. Had to break free. Her heart raced, remembering the flicker of light they had shared before. The fireflies, their laughter. "Mia! We can do this!" Rachel gasped, arms outstretched, searching for the connection that had flickered between them. "Remember who we are." As she spoke, a warm sensation seeped back into her. Light began to pulse faintly in the cocoon of shadows, a stuttered heartbeat at first, growing stronger. "Yes. That's it," she urged, searching for Mia's eyes. They locked together, and suddenly the whispers turned into furious screeches, clawing their way back into the depths. "No! You can't!" The puppet shrieked, its voice dripping with venom. It surged forward, dark hands reaching, grasping. The shadows writhed violently, about to swallow them again. "Mama!" Mia screamed, her voice piercing. She squeezed her eyes shut as the weight of shadows pressed against them. Rachel felt her heart pound, like a drum summoning the remnants of courage buried deep within. "I want to let you take her," Rachel shouted, gritting her teeth against the oppressive force. The warmth from the light surged, pushing the darkness back momentarily, revealing flickers of their past, family dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, the joy of simple moments. Panic swelled within Rachel. What if it wasn't enough? Just a feeble flicker against an ocean of night? A sudden resolve crystallized within her as she gripped Mia even harder. "We will not bow to you," she declared, her voice shaking but resolute. With a surge of will, Rachel drew upon the memories, feeding them into the light. "Together!" she cried, eyes wide, feeling the warmth envelop them. But then the shadows lunged again, lunging at their light, devouring it like a ravenous beast. "Foolish mortal!" the puppet hissed, and Rachel felt her grip falter. The darkness began to seep back into the corners, taking the warmth away. Sounds became distorted, the laughter morphed into anguished wails that clawed at her sanity. "Mama! We have to fight it," Mia insisted, her voice trembling with fear but laced with determination. She stepped slightly forward, a tiny figure standing against the overwhelming tide. Rachel's heart twisted. "Mia, no." But the moment of hesitation cost them. In that instant, darkness pooled around Mia, dragging her backward. Tears stung Rachel's eyes, fear squeezing her chest as she felt the warmth of her daughter slipping away. "Mama! Help me!" Mia's scream was swallowed by a dreadful silence, the shadows closing in like a predator preparing its meal. "No!" Rachel lunged forward, desperation propelling her into the void. But as she reached for her daughter, she felt a cold hand grasp her wrist, holding her back. From the depths, the puppet emerged, its eyes burning with a malevolent glow. "Welcome to your fate," it mocked, twisting around Rachel, pulling her deeper into despair. The darkness seeped into Rachel's mind, relentless, clawing at her essence. Was there still a way out? Or were they both ensnared in an endless nightmare? In that moment of dread, a single question coiled in the air: how deep did the puppet's control reach into their souls? The darkness pulsed around Rachel like a living entity, malevolent and confining. The puppet, with its twisted grin, edged closer, each step echoing with an oppressive laughter that crawled beneath her skin. Rachel's heart thundered as she fought against the icy talons gripping her wrist. "Mia!" She screamed, desperation igniting every nerve in her body. But the shadows swallowed her voice, twisting it into mocking whispers. "You'll never see her again," they hissed. "You're trapped, just like everyone else." But deep down, a blazing ember of determination ignited. "No! I refuse to let you take her!" Rachel shouted, fighting against the whispering shadows. She could feel Mia's presence. The bond that connected them was flickering, but it was still there, pulsing like a lifeline. The puppet leaned in closer, its grotesque face contorted with joy over Rachel's suffering. "You think love can save you?" it taunted, curling its icy fingers around the essence of despair it had created. "You're wrong. How can you defeat me when you cannot even free yourself?" Rachel clenched her teeth, summoning every ounce of love she had for her daughter. Memories flooded her: Mia running through sunflower fields, their tickle fights, those quiet evenings reading stories. "Mia, fight! Remember us. Remember your laughter, the joy we shared." To her relief, Mia's eyes, once darkened by fear and confusion, flickered with life again. "Mama, I'm scared," she whimpered, teetering on the edge of the puppeteer's grasp. "That's okay. We're in this together. You are my brave girl. You can push through this." Rachel urged. She could see the tiny spark of recognition forming in Mia's gaze. "Focus on the light. Focus on our love." In that moment, Mia's grip on the puppet loosened. Rachel felt the world shift, shadows recoiling slightly. "Mama! I remember." Mia cried, the strength in her voice breaking the spell surrounding them. "I want to be free." "Yes. You have the power, Mia. Remember the fireflies? Remember how we chased them at dusk? We're flying together. You can do this." The puppet snarled, shadows swirling like a tempest, reaching for Mia, consuming the warmth of hope blooming between them. "You can't escape this," it screeched. "Your bond is false. Only I can give her what she needs. Mia, listen to me. You don't need it." Rachel screamed, feeling new strength surging through her as she focused on Mia's smile, the light in her daughter's heart. "We can climb out of this darkness, together." Mia hesitated, her small body wavering under the puppet's grasp. But just as fear threatened to pull her back, she shook off the shadows. "I want to choose," she declared, a spark igniting in her voice. "Let go of me." In an explosive burst of courage, Mia broke free from the puppet's embrace. The darkness writhed unnaturally, claws slashing in an attempt to yank her back, yet as Mia reached for Rachel, a brilliant light enveloped her small frame, fiercely pushing the shadows aside. "Keep pushing. We are together. I believe in you." Rachel cried, heart swelling with love. In a cacophony of shrieks and howls, the puppet lunged in a final desperate attempt to recapture its prey. You will pay for this betrayal. It hissed, shadows snapping around Rachel and Mia, but with a burst of energy, Rachel matched the darkness with the light of her love for Mia. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as the warmth radiating from them pressed back against the dark like a rising sun. It felt like a tidal wave crashing back, flickering memories anchoring them to the present. Now! Mia shouted, reaching for Rachel. With a fierce clench of each other's hands, they pulled through, jumping into the blinding light. The puppet's howl reached a fever pitch as light exploded around them, illuminating the suffocating confines of the dark space. Then it shattered like glass. Silence enveloped them as the piercing light faded, and they found themselves standing on soft grass beneath a wide, open sky. It was a clear afternoon, the warmth of the sun washing over them like a soothing balm, chasing the shadows away. Mia stood beside Rachel, blinking in wonderment, her tiny hand gripping tightly to Rachel's. "We did it, we're free!" she exclaimed, eyes sparkling. Yes, we are," Rachel replied, her heart rushing with triumphant relief. The laughter of their memories echoed around them, a joyous choir that spoke of freedom and resilience. Rachel knelt, hugging Mia close, inhaling the scent of sunshine and home. "I'll always protect you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face, a sense of profound love and relief flooding her. "Always." As they stood together, the sun beamed down on the two of them, illuminating the beauty of their bond, a love that had weathered the darkest storms and emerged unbroken. This neighborhood, filled with memories and laughter, was now theirs once more. Rachel gazed at the horizon, a fresh start, a chance to create new stories, hand in hand with the light of her life. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And for goodness sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel. This is the moment to show your love. Don't wait even one more second.